So Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Bruce Springsteen apparently are ruining the live music industry for everybody else right now. I don't know what this entails past that, but somebody tagged me in this article earlier. This article was released by CNBC today, and it coins the term tourflation. And it says Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Bruce Springsteen could be making inflation worse. I kind of have my thoughts about what they're going to say. They're probably talking about because their tickets are so expensive, it's making everybody else's tickets higher, or because their tickets are so expensive, it's not allowing people to go to other shows that they may want to see. Could also be talking about the sheer size of the tour and how much gear is being brought out that it might be raising prices for smaller bands. That's kind of where I am thinking this is going to go, but let's check this out and discuss this. The article starts out by saying, as inflation remains high in many countries around the world, economists have found themselves considering a surprising potential contributor, music concerts. Oh, so are they talking about just concerts contributing to inflation in general, not just touring? Well, that's interesting. Okay, let's go. Beyonce is currently on her first solo tour since 2016, Renaissance, and Taylor Swift is filling stadiums with her Eras tour, which sparked outrage about Ticketmaster and Live Nation's power over live event ticketing. We've already discussed that on this channel. We know with Ticketmaster and Live Nation's dynamic pricing, there were so many people trying to get tickets that the website crashed, and then when people were trying to finally get tickets, the price on them raised by like $500-$600 per ticket because of the dynamic pricing. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. Elsewhere, Bruce Springsteen, Elton John, Harry Styles, and Ed Sheeran are taking over stadiums with millions flocking to see the stars, even if there's a high price to pay for tickets, travel, and accommodation. The reason we're laughing about Ed Sheeran is because I accidentally said Ed Sheeran when we were first talking about this on Twitch, but then I was like, oh no, Ed Sheeran wasn't mentioned in the headline. Well, he is. Ed Sheeran, also fucking it up for everybody. I actually love Ed Sheeran's music, so no hate here. Meanwhile, inflation remains stubbornly high in many developed economies, despite interest rate rises designed to bring prices down. The latest figures for the UK came in above expectations at 8.7% on an annual basis, whilst the US Consumer Price Index for May rose by 4% from the previous year. But what do concerts and the economy have to do with one another? Potentially a lot, according to some economists. I mean, yeah, if you start thinking about that in the broader sense now too, you're talking, travel that people are booking to go to shows, and then all the hotel rooms that are getting booked out, and then all the local places for food and shops and stuff like that for all these people traveling for concerts. I don't know how that would, I'm not an economist. I don't know how that would raise inflation. I feel like that would be good for everybody. I mean, that's why here in Nashville, before the Predators were like really established and a big team, they loved when teams like the Blackhawks and the Red Wings and the Blues came into town, because all their fans would come to the city, meaning they would book out the hotels, they'd be going to restaurants, they'd be buying stuff around here. It was good for the local economy. So I don't know how that would raise inflation, but I'm an idiot when it comes to this kind of stuff. So let's keep going. From Natalie Merchant to The Who, who the fuck is that? Klaus Bada? I assume that's a German name. Klaus. From Natalie Merchant to The Who, Klaus Bada, global chief economist at Societe Generale. I am such an idiot. Has tickets to see various artists this year. One of the things, of course, that struck me is how enormously high prices for concerts, for gigs, have become, he told CNBC Make It. And it doesn't end with the price of a ticket. All the prices around it, too, have exploded. It's not just that tickets become more expensive. It's also that your beer or cider or your Coca-Cola or your hot dog at the venue has also gotten a lot more expensive, he explained. That is a fact. I don't drink anymore, but the last time I went to a Predators game, Nashville Predators, NHL here in Nashville, beers were like $17 for like a 12-ounce beer. That's insane, dude. That's mind-blowing. And that's a normal thing at a lot of arenas and music venues. Like, I think I went to a smaller venue, the Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville recently, and got a Diet Coke. It's like $8 for like the little plastic cup of Diet Coke, like that big. Potential travel and accommodation costs are also high, a phenomenon observed by Philip Anderson, head of research for Sweden at Danske Bank. The impact Beyonce's first tour stop in Stockholm, Sweden had on the country's consumer price index is evident, he said, especially when it comes to accommodation. In the Swedish May inflation numbers, hotel prices rose more than what is usual for May, he told CNBC Make It. Hotels in the Stockholm region were reportedly fully booked the weeks around the event, and prices thus skyrocketed. As almost a third of Sweden's hotel rooms are in the Stockholm area, the price surge had a national impact despite being related to a local event, Anderson said. This indicates that not only are the costs of attending concerts higher because of inflation, they may also be contributing to it. That's wild. So like, I guess the general point of that is because Stockholm has the majority of hotels in Sweden, because their prices went up, everybody else in the country was like, oh shit, Stockholm's raising prices, so we have to too. That's wild. That's super wild, dude. Not all economists are as convinced, however. I'd be a little surprised if there was a visible impact from a particular concert on the inflation numbers, but it's not impossible. Philip Shaw, chief economist at Investec, told CNBC Make It. I suspect that there's an impact on inflation overall from concert prices becoming more expensive. That's not necessarily due to one particular artist, he said, adding that concert prices themselves do, however, appear to have increased. Yeah, we all know that. It's not just certain shows, it's everything. Concert ticket prices are higher right now than they've ever been. And, you know, the hotel thing, that's common. If there's a huge event, for example, we're prepping this Electric Callboy tour right now. We got a show at Blue Ridge Rock Fest in Virginia, which is like at the Virginia International Speedway. It's in the middle of fucking nowhere. There's only a couple hotels. All of those hotels are completely booked out already. They've already been booked out for months. So I imagine all the other hotel prices in towns surrounding there are probably going up because that they know that people are going to need to book those hotels, especially bands too. Like, it's crazy. There is a range of underlying factors behind this rise in the cost of tickets, according to economists, some to do with the broader economic patterns and others relating to concert culture in a post-pandemic world. That's what it is. Like, this is funny. Like, I'm not going to question economists because this is their job. This is what they do and this is what they study. But like, it absolutely has to do with post-pandemic touring, dude. That's all this is. Think about it. When the pandemic hit, everybody thought about the bands immediately. They're like, oh, that sucks. Pandemic, you know, the bands can't tour and make money. Dude, the bus companies, the semi-trucking companies, the vendors that rent out lighting and gear and all that, other roadies, everyone was out of work. Dude, even rehearsal places, stuff like that. Storage places were probably booming because everybody was storing their gear. But like every single part of the music industry, all the way down to transportation and rehearsal spots and all that, it all suffered for 2 years. So everybody's trying to make up for it now. Everybody's touring like crazy. Prices are way higher. It's harder to find buses now than it's ever been. It's harder to find rental gear than it's ever been. And on top of all of that, a lot of normal touring crew people got a taste of home and decided they liked it. And a lot of people left the touring industry and found jobs at home. So right now, too, a lot of tours are understaffed and they're hiring very young people that don't have a lot of tour experience to go out on these tours because they just need bodies to be out there. So it's making for some interesting situations for sure. People haven't been to a concert in a long time and the artists haven't been touring for a long time. So they're going for really, really big tours, both in terms of magnitude of each individual gig and also in terms of their breadth, their reach, and their duration. I mean, no. Like artists like Beyonce and Taylor Swift. And I mean, there was another artist that we talked about. Oh, Avenged Sevenfold. They haven't toured since like 2017. I mean, these bands have been playing shows this big for a very long time. Taylor Swift, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Ed Sheeran, all the people listed in this article, they've been playing stadiums like this for years. It's not like they're all of a sudden like, hey, we're back, we have to go bigger. They've been this big for a while. So nothing on that has really changed that much. He also pointed to changes around how musicians make a profit, a point which Shaw echoed. Artist models have changed from selling CDs and vinyl and making money that way towards more of the revenues coming from concerts, Shaw said. Broader economic shifts could also be at play, especially in countries that had tight restrictions during the pandemic. People are dying for this kind of consumption, Badar said. And due to increased amounts of household savings left over the pandemic. What? I don't know about that statement. I don't know about me. You guys in chat, did you guys just save a boatload of money over the pandemic and fucking decide that you can afford expensive shit now? I didn't. I did not save shit. Fuck, I mean, I'm considering not going to concerts because of how much money I don't have. I disagree with that statement completely. That's fucking stupid, I think. Even as inflation eases, however, concert ticket prices are expected to remain high. On the consumer side, this relates to supply and demand forces and because many people have more disposable income, he explained. I still don't agree with that. I don't think people have disposable income right now. On the artist side, the reliance on tours to bring in revenue plays into the equation. I think that there's going to be a lot of resilience in the prices of musical and other cultural events. But if there's an impact from concerts on inflation, it is likely to be brief. In Sweden's case, Danske Bank's Anderson believes a normalization of inflation levels will occur in June. If this indeed was a Beyonce effect, it would be natural for this effect to be temporary and thus correct in June. We do not expect to have any long-term effects, he said. It might be short-lived, but the impact of concerts on inflation could be recurring, with Taylor Swift coming to Sweden next year, for example. It is too early to tell, but from what I have read, Taylor Swift can have a notable economic impact on the cities she has toured. Well, yeah, she's bringing fucking 60,000 people to every show. Of course it's going to have an economic impact. So for me, I mean, there's a lot of common sense in this, but there's also some things I haven't thought about, like the whole thing with hotels in Sweden, like raising prices just because the costs in Stockholm were going up. Like, that's crazy to me. I don't think that would ever happen in a country like the US. I don't think that hotel prices in California would start going up because Taylor Swift is doing a show in Chicago or something like that. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't think that would happen because this country is way bigger and has more major cities than Sweden. But some of this stuff is stuff we've already talked about on this channel. This is the new normal in the music industry. Prices are not going to go down. Everybody keeps asking, they're like, when are the prices in the music industry going to go down? It's never going to happen. This is the new normal. Like, ticket prices, Live Nation made record profits last year. Live Nation and Ticketmaster made record profits last year. They're not going to lower ticket prices until they hit a certain point, like a threshold where they realize that people aren't buying tickets anymore. As long as people are selling out these shows, they're going to keep raising prices. And in turn, that also affects the touring industry for bands in general. When we did that talk about how Des Fafara was talking about how these costs for bands are going to be passed on to the promoter for ticket prices and stuff, absolutely true. Because right now, as I've already talked about, it's harder right now to find a tour bus, to find gear to rent for a tour, like production stuff. It's harder right now than it's ever been. Because of that, all the prices are going up on rentals. Like we already discussed recently on my video about bus prices. I showed you guys all the quotes on the buses I was getting. Those are so much higher than they were like 5 years ago. It's ridiculous. And because bands have to spend more money prepping for their own tour, their expenses for the tour are going to be higher. So those costs need to get passed on to the promoter. It's a snowball effect. And what they were saying about bands and how they're making money nowadays is absolutely true. The days of bands making money from their record sales are pretty much over because a lot of splits with labels are in the general vicinity of 75-25 in royalties. That means the artist will make 75% of royalties. The record label will make 25%. But record sales are nowhere near as high as they used to be. 2011, I was the production assistant on Red's third album called Until We Have Faces. That album, when it came out, was a number 2 overall in the US on the Billboard Top 200. Number 2 album in the entire country, and it only had 44,000 units sold. And number 1 was Nicki Minaj, and she only had like 48,000 sold. So in 2011, 48,000 record sales got you a number 1 album in the US. In 2001, NSYNC had a number 1 album in August, the week of August 11th, with 1.8 million records sold. And going down this entire list that I'm looking at, there are many cases here where it would take you way upwards of six figures to have a number one record. We're talking like 400, 500, 600,000 to get a number one record. So the point that I'm making here is that record sales are not what they used to be at all. And a lot of the money that bands were bringing in back in the day were from record sales. And record deals were structured differently because labels were making so much money from record sales with the artists and stuff like that. There used to be tour advances and there used to be signing bonuses. Those days are long gone. Like, there are no such things as signing bonuses anymore or anything like that. It's taking more time for labels to recoup their money from marketing and studio budgets and stuff before artists are even making money. So the majority of money that artists are making nowadays are from merchandise and touring. And if some of these smaller bands can't tour full time, it blows my mind on how some of these smaller, medium-sized bands even survive. Like, they can't be making a lot of money. They have to be very smart and be willing to live below their means while they're on tour, to be honest. But this is kind of wild, man. Like, I mean, I never thought about live concerts directly affecting the economy in not even just local areas, but in other areas of countries and stuff like that too. Like, I would think the opposite. I would think that concerts bringing people in would help the local economy rather than raising prices. But it's wild, man. But like I said, and we've talked about, like, I don't see prices going down for concerts anytime soon until a threshold has been hit where they realize that people aren't going to go to live concerts anymore. Nothing's going to change. And there's too many things that have to change. Like I said, bus costs, gear rental costs have gone up, and now it's the new normal, which means ticket prices are going to be higher. So until like costs for bands touring goes down, I don't think you're going to see ticket prices go down either, but it's crazy. But what do you guys think? Are you a part of that group that economic dude was saying that people were storing money over the pandemic and they're willing to blow money? I think that's the wildest part of that entire article. I'm like, I don't know a lot of people that saved money over the pandemic that they're just ready to spend on shit now. That's crazy. But man, it's a decent conversation to have. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You know, I don't know how much longer it's going to be sustainable for certain bands to keep touring unless they're huge. We'll just have to wait and find out.